came live this way before, but I just finished a podcast episode. Check it out. I talked about the Capital One acquisition of Discover Financial. And so, if you are not familiar with me, on my YouTube channel, I have over 800 videos talking about the topic of credit and primarily personal and business. And so, in this season, I'll be talking a lot about creative financing using those things, but not primarily credit, business credit, or personal credit. It will really be creative financing and real estate. So that is really my focus in this season, because depending on the circles that you're in and the individuals that you talk to and the clients you have and the people you have access to, the conversation can go way beyond just getting a credit card. And I'm not new to saying those things to individuals, because when most people think about business credit or personal credit, they look at it from the standpoint of, or should I say, when they think about funding, they think about just a credit card. So that's why in this season, I want to talk about financing, creative financing, because it's more than just a credit card. I get it. Everybody is at a different place. And what I find is that when you are at a very infancy stage of your journey with leveraging any type of funding, you believe that credit cards is the be all to end all. And I get it. Everybody has to start somewhere. Even myself, I started somewhere, and credit cards was, understanding finance. And I'm not going to say credit cards how I got started in real estate. When I start to dig deep and go beyond creative ways to get access to real estate, credit cards was the vehicle. But of course, you get to, you mature, you grow, um, and when you grow and mature and you learn more, um, you know, as the Bible say, I do away with my childish ways. And so me thinking that my number one strategy when it comes to acquiring real estate is going to be a credit card, would be very deceiving. I think that's a very deceitful way to have people to believe that if they are going to get access to real estate, they need to have a credit card. Like I said, it has its place, but the misinformation that's really in the online space, because it really only happens online, where you have people who want to tell you that business funding is just credit cards. And I know some people, they're not mature enough to understand that conversation, because many of us are really new to this conversation of credit. And so the podcast that I just finished was really about Capital One and Discover Financial. And if credit is something that intrigues you, if credit is something that um, you make a living with using it or sharing the information yourself, you're doing your audience a disservice if you are unable to not stretch beyond your limits to help people to understand other things. And in the podcast episode, I talked about um, what makes this Capital One and Discover Financial so unique. What makes it so unique, and it's not like any other um, merger or acquisition. This is really acquisition because Capital One is acquiring. What makes it so unique is that this merger with Capital One and Discover Financial is not your ordinary acquisition. The last acquisition that I know of with credit card companies happened in around 2021 when American Express purchased Cabbage. It wasn't a lot of regulatory oversight. Why? Because it was pretty much, I mean, besides it being COVID and everything, but it was really one credit card company taking over a financing company. Pretty much clean cut in the scheme of a merger and acquisition. What makes this one different? What makes the Cap One and Discover Financial, what makes that one so unique? Well, what makes it unique is Discover is a payment processor. If you do not know, if your credit guru or your credit educator or teacher um has not taught you that, Discover is a payment processor. So not only do they lend out credit cards, but they also do the processing of it the same way American Express. That is why when you go to the store and they'll tell you, we accept Visa, MasterCard, American Express, or Discover. There are even some institutions that you go to, or I mean, or retailers or companies or restaurants that will say, we don't accept American Express and we do not accept Discover because they do not process their credit cards through those processors. So they may say, we only accept Visa and MasterCard. I'm not going to go into the fees and it's higher, and credit card companies, businesses feel like for them to process those cards, they pay a bigger fee. This is much bigger than that because clearly there's a business and there is a customer for everyone. So for that business owner who's saying, well, the reason why I don't take American Express or Discover is because in order for me to process it, it's going to cost too much money. I mean, clearly we know that these processing companies have their customer base because they're $1 billion companies. So that having that conversation is a non-factor. That's for that little guy. The little guys are talking about that, and I'm no millionaire, but clearly when you hear business owners say, well, it costs too much money, okay, they're the little guy. But with that being said, Capital One would not only be a credit card company that lends out financing for a person to get a Capital One credit card, they are now going to be the financing piece. I mean, the payment processor. That right there is huge. Now, is there big money that they're going to make on the processing side to be able to process that? Yeah. But what's bigger is the amount of data that they're going to get. Understand, ladies and gentlemen, we are in a different time. The financial services industry as a whole is changing. Understand that. Do not let no one fool you on these apps. And I know many people are not ready to have this conversation because there are people who talk about credit, whether it's personal and business credit, and they'll have you fooled to believe that they are bigger than the credit card company. And I'm here to tell you, and I've said this before, there's no YouTuber, content creator, myself, or what have you is going to be able to tell you that they have the key for you to trick these $1 billion entities. Do not be a fool. Do not be a fool and thinking that any content creator has the keys to be able to tell you how you are going to crack the code or do whatever. And I know that that conversation is not popular because there are more people who telling you that they have the tricks of the trade than there are people who are saying, be a student of this, understand what's going on. But that's really it. I just wanted to hop on and kind of really talk about a summation of what I discussed on the podcast. So like I said, in this season, talking a lot about creative financing that goes beyond the credit card. Here on this channel, you will not hear anything about any salacious information on um, robbing the bank, how you going to beat the credit card companies. So if that's your jam, you won't find it here. I'm a big advocate of get access to the information and use it for your benefit ethically, so you could be able to do what it is that you desire, whatever the case may be. Because the reason why in this season I'm talking a lot about creative financing is because, as I mentioned in my other podcast episodes, going to talk a lot about being able to raise private capital, because creative financing is going to take many different things. It's not always going to be credit cards. It's not always going to be a mortgage. Some things are going to take you being a bit more creative with your funding process. Your funding, what's the word that I'm looking to use, process, and how you're going to be able to acquire the assets that you're looking for. So it's going to take and you learning many things, and a lot of these things are things that I'm sharing with my clients, things that I'm currently doing. I'll be sharing more of that. So if you are ready to have a conversation beyond the credit card, still talking about funding, still talking about leverage, but also talking about creative financing that goes beyond the credit card. You can find it here. You can find it here still on YouTube. But what you won't find is salacious information. And you will not find information that is going to tickle your ears and make you feel good and then eventually put you in jail. Not here, not now, not ever. So once again, this is Lorelia, and I am going to sign off. Like I said, go to my YouTube channel, check out my latest podcast episode, Capital One, The Big Takeover, Acquire and Discover Financial. Until the next time, see you in the next video. Bye.